you.
Hi, this is Amanda.
I'll let her know her mic is on.
Okay.
Amanda's mic is on.
Amanda, your mic is on.
Okay.
I call this March 7th, 2023 County Board Meeting to order. Please stand and join me for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and good morning. With that, I have not been notified of any changes to the agenda, so I'd be open to a motion to approve the regular meeting proposed agenda.
So moved.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Moving on to agenda item number 2, that of our open forum. Are there any people signed up for open forum?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have 3 speakers for open forum, and the first one is Terry Dickinson, speaking on grants.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning. At the workshop, I was a little concerned at how excited people are about accepting government grants, and I talked to a friend who does a lot of research on this, and he shared an article with me. I'll turn in the full article. I'm going to read excerpts today. Your regional planners are Marxist by design. Local communities are the bedrock of our American republic, but local cities and county elected officials seem to gravitate to a more regional approach of governing without investigating the intentions of outside influences at the state-national level. Federal agencies across the United States have been working hard to implement United Nations policies by way of local, state, and regional governments. Agencies like the American Planning Association, HUD, EPA, EDA, LMC, and the Department of Transportation have converged along local communities to implement policies through grants with specific strings attached. Now, he also explained that the APA, the American Planning Association, is a nonprofit organization that works for you if you want them to. When the elected representatives of a community agree to accept these grants, the UN programs on sustainability start to take shape with the end goal of removing our liberties and property. These 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals place restrictions on ownership of private property, food, water, transportation, and education. They are specifically designed to replace the U.S. Constitution with non-elected international governance. We citizens rely on our elected officials to make wise decisions and stay within the boundaries of our republic, not to embrace a comprehensive blueprint on sustainability, creating private-public partnerships, enabling non-elected regional governance. Please do not relinquish your duty as an elected official to defend our constitutionally protected liberties. Please remove all sustainability language from any grants that you accept, and please read Executive Order 12852. 12852. Please disclose all grants to the public before they are accepted. Better yet, do not accept those grants. They all have strings attached. Please do not spend our tax dollars getting wined and dined at these conventions of free money. We implore you to uphold our liberty. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Terry. Our next speaker?
Our next speaker is Tracy Sodan, speaking on the Second Amendment.
Good morning, Tracy.
Good morning. When each of you were sworn into office, your oath included supporting the United States Constitution, which includes the Second Amendment and the 14th Amendment. As elected officials, you shouldn't pick which amendments to follow. Even the ones you don't agree with should be supported. These are resolutions from Clearwater County, Kennebec County, Marshall County, Roseau County, and Wadena County. They have all been passed by their county boards, and they have committed to strongly uphold the Second Amendment in their counties. A common statement between them is the county will protect the rights of citizens to keep and bear arms, including through legal action, the power to appropriate public funds, and the right to petition for redress of grievances. Commissioners, I'm asking that you follow other Minnesota counties and stand strong to uphold the Constitution. Secondly, I'm giving you 45 letters that are part of the 47 Minnesota sheriffs that have sent letters opposing the new Minnesota gun bill, HF 396. Also, since you're talking about solar today, I'm also giving you a study by the University of North Carolina on the cost of reclaiming farmland used for solar panels. Please read this because there's no guarantee farmland can be reclaimed. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thanks, Tracy.
And the third speaker is Brett Collier. And Brett, if you could please announce what your topic is.
He's online.
Not here.
And Brett is not here. Is he here remotely?
I didn't see him.
We can't see.
Do not see him remotely, Madam
Okay.
Chair.
I do have materials that Mr. Collier sent in for the workshop, which we've made copies of for the board.
Okay, great. So the materials will be distributed. So any other speakers?
There are no more, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. So that concludes our open forum. Moving on to agenda item number 3 is our consent agenda. If there are no changes, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
I would, going to say, Madam Chair, I would like to remove item 3.9 from the consent agenda.
Item number 3.9.
I will amend my motion then to approve the consent agenda as presented with the removal of item 3.9.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded, and we will move item 3.9 and work on that right after the consent agenda is approved. So with that, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Doing this right? Thank you, County Attorney. Item 3.9, consider and approve appointments to the Sherburne County Board of Adjustment.
So, Madam Chair, when I'm looking at these, when we got it, we didn't really even get an application with it, which we didn't on the previous 2 appointments that we did either. So, but that's just something I would like to see in the future, if we actually get the applications with it. My concern in this particular case, really loud there, my concern in this particular case is that the recommended candidate actually works for GRE in the office where they would be basically doing your land acquisition and eminent domain proceedings. It just seems to me, and this could be just my issue or one that's been put out to a lot of people when I was campaigning. A lot of people very concerned about encroachments on their property inside of Sherburne County and our property regulations, is that, placing her on the adjustment board puts her in a position where, as for one person, an appointed person has an awful lot of authority over people's properties inside of Sherburne County. Also, it was in her application, it said that she doesn't think that an application for an easement should be granted unless it presents a hardship. Now, both of my neighbors across the street have got stuff for their, because they both built their sheds within 15 feet of the property line. You know, one many years ago, and basically all I do is check with the neighbors and fill out all the forms. And in that case, you know, whether it would be a hardship or not, they would have to build a longer driveway to put those sheds anyplace else. That's just how the properties were put together when they were built. And so they, you know, I mean, they had to go through the Board of Adjustment and so on and so forth. But I don't know if those would represent a hardship or just because it makes sense. And I think that people should be able to use their property in the way that they see fit, if it makes sense and there's no actual danger to the rest of the public. So I think that that's kind of more of a important factor in selecting somebody for the board, at least for me personally. And the number 2 candidate has that on his application where he says he believes they should be granted when they make sense. Now, I may be alone in this particular objection, but.
So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Lynn is here and County Attorney. Board of Adjustment is highly dictated in statute. So the hardship piece is actually one of the questions that has to be proven for the Board of Adjustment. And since I haven't served on the Board of Adjustment, I'm going to turn this over to Attorney and Ms. Lynn Watashik.
Madam Chair, if I may, you are correct in your analysis that when a variance comes before the Board of Adjustment, they do have to look at the element of hardship. So that is actually a correct statement.
And just to clarify, I don't believe we can issue a variance to an easement. An easement is under the easement holder. We have variances to side setbacks, rear setbacks, road setbacks, but I don't think we can grant a variance to allow someone an easement. That would be whoever the easement holder is. So we don't have control over easements per se, is my understanding. Kathy, do you agree with that?
That's correct. If an individual needed an easement and they could either negotiate that, or there's also easements by implication, easements by necessity. There's a number of different easements, so.
I know a number of years ago we had where someone had built a deck in an easement. That happens occasionally, and the easement holder in that case happened to be the township, and the township had to go through the process of vacating that easement because that's not something we could do a variance to. So there are processes if someone is in an easement, but not where we can grant a variance to an easement. I don't believe we have that authority.
I think I
Just to clarify.
said easement when I meant to say variance.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right. That's my fault.
Okay, so for me, what this is pointing to is that I'd like to see added to our workshop list, Board of Adjustment overview for this board to understand just more details of Board of Adjustment and its role in the county. So back to the issue at hand with these 2 applicants. Other comments or questions?
Madam Chair. Just a quick question. So the one thing that did catch my eye was the candidate's day job, for lack of a better term, with GRE. And I want to be clear, it's one of the things that probably in my mind qualifies her for the job, but it also, in my mind, presents at least the potential for the appearance of a conflict of interest. And so I'm just wondering, through the interview process, did you guys talk about that? And was that brought up at all?
Do you want me to address it? Okay, Madam Chair, members of the Commission, Commissioner Halls. Yeah, we did speak about it. You know, first of all, conflict of interest in statute is financial only. So this is not a legal conflict of interest. There is the potential for an appearance. However, when we look at the type of variances we grant, we don't really grant many to utilities, and should it ever come up that utility is looking for variance, this person would obviously recuse themselves from there. But we looked at it the same way you did, experience in the field, I think this particular applicant worked for Bogart Peterson a long time ago, so actually worked on the advocacy side before they went to utility work. That would probably present a greater conflict of interest because they may represent people seeking variances. But the fact that they're in a utility and the utility is operating in the county did not present a conflict of interest.
And I somewhat read it similar to you, Andrew, and we, just a few years back, had a person on Board of Adjustment who worked for Bowser. And when her application came up, there were some similar, is this going to be a conflict? But she brought such a asset to the board with that background. So I saw this as asset to the board. I appreciate the discussion. Any other questions or comments?
Well, I'll just throw in this, that currently there's one representative on planning and zoning that's a former employee of Bogart Peterson too. And I don't think you can underestimate the value of their experience in these situations on planning and zoning, Board of Adjustments, whatever. And I agreed with Andrew. I think that, the qualifications from her, the one applicant, are out exceed what might be an issue going down the road just because of their experience in dealing with these situations.
Okay, so with that, how would the board like to proceed?
I'll make a motion to approve the applicants as presented to serve on the Board of Adjustment.
There's a motion made by Commissioner Danielewski. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Arnold. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion has carried. So, thank you. Okay, moving on then to agenda item number 4, that of announcements.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Just a few short announcements. Starting on calendaring, just a couple of notes. I want to highlight coming up is the AMC Leadership Summit. The reason I'm highlighting it is just a clarification for travel and training activities with the board. Our understanding with Diane's assistance yesterday is if you're going to a training activity, that mileage would be covered or travel would be covered. However, if you're going to a conference, or excuse me, a committee assignment or other AMC activities, your salary covers your per diem and mileage in-state. So in this case, my interpretation is the Leadership Summit is open to all commissioners, so therefore it'd be considered an AMC conference. So just to note that if you are traveling up there, please don't put in for mileage because then I'll track you down and, we'll have a conversation. So, and then we'll correct for those who went to the new commissioner school, make sure that you're appropriately documented for that. Also on the calendar, just noting as well, there was a request to add Board of Adjustment for a workshop. I think if you're okay, I'll also include Planning Advisory Commission in that as well. There's in the past, there's been discussions, we have that hybrid model where the hearing occurs in the Planning Advisory Committee, but the decision-making sits here. And so I think we could cover both on the same workshop if the board's amenable to that, and Lynn, if that's okay. So, and then also just to note, staff would also like to add on your future workshop list a discussion on housing. The board did raise it, and so we did meet as a staff. We're going to try to cover the entire spectrum of housing activity in the county. So what I mean by that is a lot of discussion in St. Paul about emergency sheltering requirements now for homelessness, all the way to workforce housing and affordable housing and economic development and market rate housing. So we want to build a spectrum so you can understand where the county is or is not involved and what may happen if bills in St. Paul get passed. So that'll come up as well if the board's amenable to that. Shifting to correspondence, just a couple things. In your packet, good news, and we like to share good news. We had a really, really nice email about snow plowing and the fact that it has gone really well this year, even though we've had a lot of mailbox casualties. But kudos to Andrew and his staff. And there is a rumor that Blizzo was seen on a Sherburne County state highway. So Blizzo is the new named truck at the state level, so named after Lizzo. But it's nice that Gloria mentioned that, so that's in your packet. Also, a note, we did receive advance notice that Sherco 3 is being proposed by Xcel Energy. It is a proposal for 1,750 acres and 250 megawatts of solar production. So I've put a copy of that for the board correspondence, so you can see that, and we'll be tracking it at the staff level, of course. Also in your correspondence, the county attorney is seeking help from cities and towns to update the ordinances that we enforce on behalf of them. So in your conversations with townships and cities, if you would keep that in mind, that would be great. A couple other notes then. Extension is looking for some assistance in identifying farmers in Sherburne County who could benefit from soil testing and education. And here's the test for today, and I don't think Gary can answer this one. They're looking for high tunnel farming. So the question is, everybody know what high tunnel farming is? So a no, a yes?
Yes.
Yes? Andrew? Rayanne? Okay, so who wants to describe it? Greg, you should says yes, so.
It's the very tall, big greenhouses, greenhouse farming.
Yeah.
Which has gotten to be more popular up here. It allows you to, it's for obviously intensive farming within a particular space, but it allows you a longer growing season and more diversity in what you can produce. And is also a type of farming that can work really well on what, as it turns out, is the predominant size farm, at least numerically, inside of Sherburne County, which is under 179 acres.
Right. So Gary, Chair, how did Greg do? Did he do pretty well?
Did well. I've toured a few of them.
Yeah.
Yes, they
All right.
are, the big high, I don't know what those tunnels
Yeah.
that are, and people can sometimes farm all year long in them, and they do. And some of our niche farmers use them. So, but yeah, they are very becoming popular.
So if you know of anybody, I'll send the Extension Committee information to you, and you can send that out. But they're looking for, they're doing a study and an assistance program for high tunnel farming. Again, free soil testing and education, so pretty cool. And then just a couple other last things. We had a very good week in Public Works Department. They received almost over $3.7 million in assistance for some projects. Just share them very briefly with you. $750,000 for a roundabout at the intersection of CASA 4 and CASA 11 in Becker Township. $750,000 for a roundabout at the intersection of CASA 4 and County Road 46 in Zimmerman. $731,000 and change for 68.7 miles of edge line mumble strips. And apparently there's a difference between rumble strips and mumble strips. And these will be rural intersection, including rural intersection lighting at 19 intersections. So really great. These were all identified within the county's road safety plan and will help improve safety in our county roads. In addition, we received $1.46 million in federal state transportation block grant program funding for the reconstruction of County State Aid Highway 4 in the city of Zimmerman. We had also received $700,000 in local road improvement program grant funding for this project as well. This will include 2 roundabouts on CASA 4 and 10th Street and at County Road 45. So really good week for Andrew. Rihanna, hope I didn't steal all your thunder. I know you had a hand in some of those, but thanks for that. Pretty amazing. And then we've been updating you by email on legislation. I'll just say the game is afoot, as you know, down in St. Paul. If you have any questions, you can catch me later, but your lobbyists are tracking what's going on there and seeing what's happening. And then last but not least, if you see a certain HR director later today, you should wish her happy birthday.
Okay, any other announcements? Okay, moving on to our regular agenda. Item number 5.1, consider and approve the preliminary and final simple plat of Aspen Meadows. Ms. Lynn Witashik.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
And this was from our February Planning Commission meeting. James and Sharon Gullickson. It's Gullickson Edition. It's 2 lots in Big Lake Township on 14 acres. Planning Commission recommended approval with the 4 conditions that are listed in your packet.
Okay, so I'd be open to a motion for this.
I would move that we approve these, Madam Chair.
Motion made by Commissioner Felber. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Danielowski. Any questions or comments?
Madam Chair, if I may, point of order.
Certain.
Lynn, did you say Gullickson?
Gullickson addition, correct.
Okay, I'm sorry. I understood that the order was different, but I apologize for stepping in.
Sorry.
Actually, we are. Thank you. That is appropriate. I am looking at the Aspen Meadows.
Okay, we can go to that one first, sorry. It was on my sheet wrong. This is Robert Rasmussen. This is Aspen Meadows. It's 3 lots in Orrock Township on 22 acres, and they have 5 conditions listed. Planning Commission recommended approval.
Okay, so do we need to remove the
I will withdraw my previous motion.
Thank you. Withdraw the motion. And now we would be approving a requested residential preliminary and final simple plat of Aspen Meadows in Orrock Township.
Madam Chair, I would move that we approve Aspen Meadows.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner Falber.
I'll second that.
Seconded,
Need to watch
Commissioner
my screen
Gray.
closer.
I know. Thanks for that catch, County Attorney Haney, always keeping us on point. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. And now on to the Gullickson addition.
So Gullickson addition, Big Lake Township, 14 acres. Planning Commission recommended approval with the 4 conditions in your packet.
Okay,
Madam Chair, I'll approve that request as presented.
motion made by Commissioner Danielowski,
I will second that, Madam Chair.
seconded by Commissioner Falber. Any questions or comments with the Gullickson addition? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 5.3, consider and approve resolution authorizing submittal of an application to the MPCA. And we have Ms. Addison Otto and Gabby Holman with us.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Yes, so the Planning and Zoning Office is seeking authorization to apply to the MPCA to host an AmeriCorps member. It's actually Green Corps through the MPCA for the 2023 to 2024 program year. So that would start in September of 2023 and run till August of 2024. This Green Corps member, we've drafted kind of a rough work plan up for what we would like this individual to work on. And it would be based on waste reduction, recycling, and organics management in the county, and it'd be education and outreach based. We have had a Zoom meeting with the MPCA, the Minnesota Green Corps program coordinator, and they're very clear about the fact that this is a MPCA AmeriCorps employee. This would not be a county employee or an intern or volunteer. They're completely employed by the MPCA through this program. And the only, I guess, requirement from the county's point is to provide in-kind contributions, and that's in the form of supervision of the employee because they would be based here in our office. Mileage reimbursement, providing a workstation, computer, phone, those sorts of necessities, and then also conference attendance. So, yeah, is there anything any questions that you have?
Have we had Green Corps members before?
We have not in our office, no. So this is the first time that we've applied for this. I know that Public Health has an AmeriCorps member currently, and I believe it's the first time that they've utilized that program too. So I have been in contact with Public Health a little bit too, and it seems like it's been going well for them.
Okay. Any other discussion or a
Madam
motion?
Chair. What's the term for the Green Corps member for this?
The
project?
timeline?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is September 2023 to August 2024.
Okay.
And basically, Madam Chair, you be using this person as an extra set of hands to work on getting the message out that is already what we're trying to do, and that's education, to help keep the amount of waste going into our landfill that is unnecessary waste.
Right, yeah, so, I think every year our office, we talk about all the different like education and outreach that we could be doing. And then as soon as we get into like the busy season, then it's like, we're just focused on getting our day jobs done and some of that extra, stuff that we would love to do as far as education and outreach, we don't have a chance to. And so this person, they can't take over any of the current projects that we have. They can just do, things above and beyond and do new projects. So I guess I'll just give you kind of a look into some of the events that we had put together in the draft work plan would be doing waste characterization studies in schools. So they would reach out to schools within the county and like literally go through garbage and separate out like the different types of waste. So paper versus food and organics versus cardboard and other recyclables, and then put together for that school kind of like a waste portfolio of what they're producing, and then give them some suggestions on how they can reduce their waste or different recycling and organics programs that they could benefit from. Just as suggestions, they won't be required to implement any of those. And then also offering some education and outreach within the schools. So that's kind of a big portion of the work plan that we would like to have them do. And then also hosting a zero waste reuse event in the county. And Gabby, maybe you can add a little bit about what those reuse events look like.
Yes, so we would like to have this person kind of create like a specific reuse event. I know the city of Elk River recently did a garden and yard tool reuse event, and it was specific to those materials, so people could bring those materials and then kind of swap them out, and they had zero waste at that event. So that's kind of what we would like the Green Corps member to possibly implement in the county.
Okay, great.
Madam Chair, one more question. Have you come up in your draft work plan on specific metrics that you want this this individual to meet, so that you know if the program is successful or not?
Yeah, well, so right now we haven't come up with, I guess, like a baseline for that. We've identified some outcomes and outputs that we would like to see, but there's nothing, I guess, like concrete or set in stone. Also because we haven't done this before, so we're not really sure what to expect. We definitely, for like the reuse event, would be like weighing and documenting like what items come in and, kind of keeping track of that and the success of that event. But we don't have specific metrics that we've outlined.
So from my perspective, and frankly my perspective alone, I would like to see metrics as part of this program, so that if you would like to do it again next year as an example, you can show us how that, what the results were of having that person on board.
And I did want to point out, so the Green Corps member would be required to generate a report at the end of all of their work, and they would be able to provide something like that, and we can include metrics in that report.
Great.
Yes, we haven't set any goals, but they will still be documenting and keeping track of all of that, which we would present to the board so that you guys have that information to see how successful it was.
So, and how competitive is this? Are there a lot of Green Corps members out there?
I'd have to, recalling off of memory, I think that the MPCA, it's around like 40 or 45 Green Corps members that they place every year. And it's not just with counties, it's also with like nonprofits and other organizations as well. And I do know that as a first-time applicant that we do get like extra points in our application because we've never been a host site before. And so we're definitely hopeful. And I think our conversation with the MPCA went really well, and they were excited about our proposals. So yeah, I think it can be competitive, but there's also quite a few members that they place throughout the state.
Okay, so.
Oh, yeah, and also, thank you, Dave, Dave Lucas. Also, we did reach out to schools and kind of gave them a rundown of our proposal and what we'd be looking to have this person do within schools, and asked them for letters of support of our application. And I just sent that out to all the schools last week, and I've gotten 2 letters of support back, and then I think 3 or 4 schools emailed me just looking for a little bit more information. but we'll be including letters of support from schools with our application as well.
Okay, great. So I'd be open to a motion to approve the board resolution number 030723-AD-3072, supporting this application to the MPCA to host a Green Corps member.
I would move that we approve that.
Commissioner Felber moves. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Danielowski. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Moving on now to agenda item 5.4, authorize the auditor treasurer to sign an agreement for annual auditing services with a recommended audit firm. Ms. Diane Arnold.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, Commissioners. So it's that time of year again where we're coming to the end of our agreement with our current auditing firm. And so just to give you a little bit of background, previously we had gone out with, there was 4 counties that went out for a request for proposal for auditing services, which was Olmsted, Carver, Freeborn, and Sherburne. This year, Olmsted decided they're going to stick with the firm that they had with previously, so Wright County joined us. And so the following counties, which will be Carver, Freeborn, Wright, and Sherburne, we entered into a joint request for proposal for audit services for the years of 2023, 24, 25, 26, and 27. The last year being completed in 2028 for the 27 audit. And the RFP was sent to multiple firms, including the state auditor's office. We later understood that the OSA was not providing audit services to any other counties as they didn't have the staffing available to conduct them. So we didn't receive a proposal back for them. So the past year of conducting our audit has been with Clifton Larson Allen, the firm that was awarded the previous proposal. And those counties that participated were the ones I mentioned previously, those 4. So the proposal that went out this time was drafted or reviewed by all of the county attorneys, and so they were all in agreement. And we sent that out to all the accounting firms that were out there. We received 4 responses back with 3 bids and 1 decline. Redpath had declined. They're not taking on any new clients. And the following bids are listed there with Clifton Larson, Abdo, and Baker Tilly. And as you can see, the lowest responsible bidder would have been, is Clifton Larson Allen. I mean, all the way through, you can, I just put out the cost for everyone so you can be able to see that. So my recommendation would be is to go with Clifton Larson Allen, and then I'll work with our county attorney on the agreement. And once that's been executed, that will be on file in my office and along with in the administration office.
Thanks, Diane. So this agenda item before you is to authorize the county auditor treasurer to enter into an agreement for professional services to conduct the county's annual audit with the audit year of 2023 through the audit year of 2027, with Clifton Larson Allen being the most responsible bidder. So being open to a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
Motion's made by Commissioner Danielowski. Is there a second?
I would second that.
Seconded by
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Felber. Any questions or comments?
I do want to say that I have noticed through the various boards that I am sitting on that this is one of the most challenging things that is starting to emerge is different organizations, auditing firms that are struggling to find staff. So they are dropping clients, and the clients that they are serving are, the prices are escalating. So
Right, and I feel like,
I like to see this, that we've actually locked in something.
right, yes. And I was glad that they were putting forth a proposal because they didn't have to, but
Right.
I think we've got a good working relationship with the county and with the audit firm.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just a quick question. Was there a price increase from the previous term to this?
Yes, there was about a 7% increase.
Okay.
Anything else? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Thanks,
Thank you.
Diane. Item number 5.5, consider and approve the American Rescue Plan update and recommended approvals and expenditures.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners.
Weber.
This week, we have 5 individual requests, and some of them are larger dollar amounts, so I invited the division heads to talk about each of the different projects. So first up will be Brian talking about the 3 IT projects you see on your list.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thanks for the consideration on use of these ARPA funds. The first request we have is for a product from KnowBe4 called Fish ER. In today's environment, end users, not only in the county but across the world, are getting a lot of spam and phishing. IT spends a number of hours responding to these and helping ensure our cybersecurity of our email systems. Fish ER is an AI tool which would be used to facilitate what we're doing and work to quicken our response to those sorts of events. It would be a totally new product. The cost of that for 2 years would be $10,700, and we're looking for some funding from ARPA to cover that expense of the new product.
Okay, any questions? This is the first item on your agenda for expenses under approving the biweekly ARPA-related expenditures. So let's take this one separately. For 10,000, it says 600 on the.
Yes, that's 600. Sorry for that misstatement.
That's correct?
Yep, 600 is correct.
10,600, okay, thank you. So a motion to approve the phishing cybersecurity software expense at $10,600.
Madam Chair, I would move that we approve that.
Motion by Commissioner Felber,
I'll second that.
seconded by Commissioner Gray. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The second item for discussion is the county's phone system. So over a decade ago, we went with a new phone system at that time. In that decade, all of the handsets on the desks have aged off and we need new equipment for. We're at a point where the back end needs further refreshing, and licensing as well for the phone system needs refreshing. So IT is looking at this in 2 ways. Do we continue utilizing the system we've grown to know over the past decade, or does it make sense to look at some other technologies around the phone system to help us better include things such as texting and video conferencing that we have in today's world, and to support our citizens? So the request for this is about 3/4 of that project over a 5-year period. The actual selection will be one that we make with department heads and bring to the county board on all the analysis we've done and what our recommendation would be. So we'd be coming back probably in fall sometime to finalize that quote.
Okay, so questions or comments?
Madam Chair?
Please.
Yeah, so I'm just a little confused on what the funding request is going for here if the decision's not been made on a specific technology yet. So just, if you could just elaborate a little bit.
Go ahead. Yeah, so we've looked at refreshing the current phone system, and we've looked at some new options for phone systems at a high level. And in both those cases, the costs are what we're seeing at a high level, about 8 to 10% difference. So we felt it good to come to the board at this time to make sure we have the funding available to go forward with analysis and acquisition and further come back and finalize that.
So the answer is it's a placeholder. We felt that we'd ask the board to fence off some money for the phone system now, so it's just a placeholder.
And then, just so I'm clear, then will be a further discussion on what the final solution is, because I know we had some discussion a couple weeks ago, I guess it was, about some of the pros and cons over cloud-based systems versus continuing with the current system, those sort of things. So we will be coming back.
Correct.
Okay.
We're going to do that analysis, and in particular, Brian's going to, chart out several options. But one of the misnomers is, our current system is not the old phone systems we all think they are. I mean, they're actually cloud-based as well. So he's going to chart everything out for you and lay it out for some options. But
Okay.
we're getting to the point on the ARPA funding that if we don't fence it, there's a chance that we'll have a capital expense without it, so.
Okay.
And isn't ARPA funds have to be used by 2026 or at least targeted for a use? Isn't that correct, Dan?
Yeah, committed by 2024, spent by 2026.
Okay.
We're down to about 2.5 million. If these are approved, we'd be down to about 2.5 million. So we're trying to strategically place the money into one-time expenses going forward.
And then, Madam Chair, if we choose not to move forward after you make your presentation of what all you have found out, then that would just open that money back into the pool of ARPA funds.
Correct. Correct, yeah, then it would come from the regular budget at that time. Anything on that item, or continue?
I think we'll take these each separately.
Okay.
So with that, I would be open to a motion to approve the IT countywide phone system appropriation at this point of $725,000.
I'll make that motion, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Gray moves that. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, point of order. The one I'm looking at here, and maybe I'm confused, is 185,000. Am I looking at the wrong thing?
Are we on the 725 or the 185 or the 300,000?
Yeah, so we're on project item 174, it's 725. It looks like there is another item 172 that property maintenance is going to talk about building climate control systems.
That's farther down.
Oh, I got it. Okay, thank you.
I'm on
Yep.
that IT countywide phone system. So motion's been made by Commissioner Gray. Is there a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Seconded by Commissioner Danielowski. Other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Now moving on to IT countywide desktop laptops.
Yeah, and thank you, Madam Chair and Board, for reserving those funds for future use here this year. Item 178 from IT is 300,000. Every year, we have a refresh of laptops, desktops, tablet computers for our environment. So the look was to utilize this fund in place of those levy dollars for that equipment expense this year.
Okay, any questions or comments or a motion?
I'll move that we approve that.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Felber. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Halls. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried.
Thank you, Board and Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Next up is $185,000 climate control, and I'm going to invite Steve Becker, our property maintenance director.
Morning, Board.
Good morning.
We have got two large climate control projects going on this year. One totaling about $105,000, where we're replacing circuit boards in VAV controllers. 99% of it's in detention, but it's not in areas where inmates frequent. These are outdated. They've been there for about 30 years. They're no longer supported, and we've had issues with them failing. We were able to get them repaired, but the company who has been repairing them, not repairing them anymore. So that's the first project. $185,000. Currently, we run on a platform called Continuum. Continuum is owned by Schneider Corporation. They own a number of businesses that do the similar thing, and they've worked together for about 5, 6, 7 years, and they've come up with one of their subsidiary companies to get rid of Continuum. So we're switching away from Continuum into this new platform, and to replace that, some hardware and software upgrades, about $185,000. We're doing this because Continuum will not be supported anymore past this year. So we have to make a change. And it's unfortunate we're having to pay or expend the money on climate control, but we're very reliant on computerized management of our climate systems. So the request is to have $185,000 of this funding source allocated for this project. The objective is to have both of these projects done by November of this year, which is rather aggressive.
Okay, questions or comments, or open to a motion to approve the property maintenance climate control software update of $185,000, a one-time cost?
Madam Chair, are there any, beyond this 185,000, are there going to be any other hardware upgrades that'll be required in order to support the software?
Yes, that is, $185,000 is for this location only. We're seeking pricing for the other 3 locations throughout the county, which would have to be upgraded, and we would do that in the following years. These are lesser important. Becker Public Works is a large facility running on Continuum, and it will run on Continuum for a while. The 2 systems can work together, but we have to manage it through 2 different operating systems. When the remodeling and the build-out was completed, little history, we had 2 card access systems going on for 3 years. And eventually, we converted everything over to the new Secure 9000 system. So we were using 2 systems for some time. We're going to do the same thing with climate control management as well.
So the new system is it's a Schneider building management system?
It's a Schneider system, but it's not Schneider Continuum. It's Schneider IPC 1 or 5. It's just another one of the subsidiary companies that they chose that had the best performance, and they built everything using this platform. So they had 5 or 6 different platforms running through different companies throughout the world, and they eliminated them, all of them except for one.
Okay.
They're going with one system.
Okay.
Other discussion, or what is the board's wish on this?
Madam Chair, having a little background on this, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion's been made to approve by Commissioner Halls. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Felber. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion has carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Moving on to the Parks Winter Trail Maintenance Equipment.
And last but not least, but this is trail equipment for the Parks Department, and it's a one-time cost, and I'll invite Andrew up to talk about that project.
Morning, Madam Chair, County Board members. I apologize, you're stuck with me. Gina's enjoying her time in Hawaii right now. Actually on a personal vacation, but at the same time learning about some of their cultural resources and stuff that they do have in Hawaii and how that relates back to some of our new park property that we acquired. So with that, we're before you today with a request, $55,000 for 2 pieces of accessory equipment that will more readily utilize our tractor that we use in the Parks Department. So the first piece of equipment is an 8-way plow blade that goes on the front of the tractor. This will allow our park staff to push snowbanks back as the trails are crossing intersections, provide better visibility for those winter roadway crossings. As we see drifting and stuff on some of our park trails that we maintain in the wintertime, it'll help us knock those down and get those out of the way as well. So very useful piece of accessory equipment to go on the tractor. The second is a rear tiller attachment. So as you think of Minnesota and kind of the dead of winter, you know, it's cooler, lower moisture levels in the snow. As we get to some of these shoulder seasons right now, we get a lot of hard pack, we get a lot of ice, we get a lot of thaw, refreeze. This tiller would go through, it's a 7-foot wide tiller, and it would essentially condition the snow behind the tractor so that we can more readily groom that for the cross-country ski trails, for the hiking trails, for the Great Northern Trail, Oak Savannah. If you recall, a number of months ago, probably better than a year ago, we entered into an agreement with the city of Becker, so we helped them maintain their winter trail system in their city park there. They reimburse us for a portion of that, so a minor amount of this $55,000 would be coming back by way of that agreement as well. So with that, I will stand for questions. Any questions that you might have?
Any questions?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the 2 pieces of equipment for the winter trail maintenance.
Madam Chair, I'll second that.
Motion made by Commissioner Danielowski and seconded by Commissioner Felber. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Thanks,
Thank you,
Andrew.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thanks, Dan. Moving on to agenda item number 6, that of Commissioner correspondence, committee reports, and upcoming meetings, future agenda items. Who would like to go first with what you have been working on?
Doesn't matter. I'm ready to go, I guess.
Okay.
Here, let me,
Commissioner
I
Felber.
thought I was, and then now I can't pull up my,
Okay, how about Commissioner Gray?
I got it now.
Okay, Commissioner Felber.
All right, here we go. Oh, I wish these things were touchscreen. So I make all these notes and then I can't.
Find them.
Then I fumble with this thing. Let's see, for AMC, I sat on the extension, the last AMC conference, which we held by remote. I sat on the Extension Committee, Public Safety Committee, and Legislative Committee. One of the big things that I found out is that it's a fairly common problem across public service right now. They're having a lot of staffing and training issues in rural emergency medical services. Some areas are going to probably have to consolidate in order to continue to be able to provide services with the increased costs and the difficulty of obtaining employees. AMC is working to get better funding for county probation because the state has never paid what's actually supposed to. That's a really good thing. A lot of public safety bills. There's one that's important. There's HF 1462 that would allow counties to use the housing in Oak Park Heights for mentally ill clients, which could save us a lot of money because right now we can end up spending thousands of dollars per day when we have somebody who is mentally ill and dangerous in our system, and there's not space for them in the main state system. There's a bill to provide more therapeutic housing for juveniles, which is something that I very recently have found out that is a huge problem statewide and a big problem here in Sherburne County. There's a bill to further limit the use of cash bail. I see this as a particular problem because cash bail still serves a purpose. I mean, you can't commit a new crime if you're sitting in jail. And sometimes that's the best means to protect the public is to keep cash bail going. So I'm concerned about that being overly limited. We did meet with our state legislators also, and we had some good meetings about some of the things that we need. And then I went to the Becker Family in Needs meeting, which is something that I knew nothing about. So I learned an awful lot while I was there, which is a pretty common thing for me. Their focus is primarily on making sure the school complies with the McKinney-Vento Act, which requires schools to offset the impact of homelessness on students. Something I didn't know is that if a student in Becker ends up homeless, and by that I mean everything from like literally living in the street to couch surfing on relatives' things, if they're living on a couch in St. Cloud, the school still has to get them down to that school. And this is a fairly common problem in Sherburne County because we simply do not have shelters for homeless youth. That is one of the things that we're going to have to deal with as time goes by here. That group works with groups like Backpack Buddies, which helps to provide kids with meals for when they go home on the weekend and home on holidays, kids who are primarily dependent on the school free breakfast and free lunch for the actual nourishing meals that they do get. I didn't realize, I have really no concept of the homeless problem actually inside of Sherburne County. I did not know that we have homeless encampments in Becker and we have homeless encampments in Elk River. So this is something that I was really glad that I got to go to, and it's something that I'm going to continue to look at and hopefully depending upon how funding and what the state does, maybe there are things that we can do as a board to help offset some of these issues. The County Extension Committee, I don't have a lot more to say about that because I already told you everything I learned from going there. I had to go figure out what some of the various concepts we were talking about. I had to figure out what high tunnel farming was all about and a few other things. And then I did find there's some additional resources for veterans that are interested in agriculture, and that's really a good thing. And that we really get a lot of value out of the extension because we get 4 educators and we're only paying for 60% of one of those spots. The Violent Offender Task Force, I also sat in one of their meetings, and they're working on a new joint powers agreement, and that's about really all that was major news from that one.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Commissioner Gray.
Yeah, attended the legislative conference from AMZ by Zoom. The weather wasn't very cooperative that day, so we were all on the computer. We had good engagement with the legislatures that were available, I thought. Sat in on the Environmental and Natural Resources Committee the next day. Sat and listened. Had never been at that committee, so got educated on a lot of the things that they're doing and all of the acronyms that they use, which were a lot. Went to the Quad County Extension meeting that morning. The Extension just recently hired all 4 new educators for the 4 counties. These are all transplants. None of these educators are from Minnesota. They're all getting just dropped here. So it's, I think, vitally important that we help them get acclimated to the area and help them make contacts. They're a very enthusiastic group. I think they'll do great, but they're going to need some help in reaching out. And you did very well in explaining high tunnels, Greg. It was you nailed it. We had the Sherburne County Extension meeting that night. 2 of the 4 new educators were there. We expressed basically the same thing. We talked about the Farm Family of the Year. I'm on the committee to nominate someone for that. So if you have someone that wants to, or you think qualifies as a Farm Family of the Year, let me know. They also did a detailed presentation on 4-H, which was very good to listen to because I never participated in 4-H. Went to the Northland Reliability Open House at the Palmer Township Hall. This is another, it's not a new route, it's the existing route of a 230 kV line it's gonna be. He spoke at our last board meeting. This was just for the area that's up in my district, for these agricultural guys that they had to get some questions answered in regards to pole placements, how it's gonna affect irrigators, and their staff was there and they had a large staff there from Northland Reliable, and they did a very good job of entertaining and being transparent with these the growers up there. The opening of the We Are Water, I think Bruce and Rayanne attended that, which was great. It was up at the History Center. I think it's going to be it would be very good. I encourage everyone to go, just because it even in being involved in water and in the area, it still educates everybody on what's going on and how it affects you in a different way. And I think it runs through April.
Yep, runs through the end of April 24th.
Yep. And then I did the Sherco stakeholder meeting, where they are inviting most of everybody in the area of officials. They talked about the decommissioning and the coal combustion residue. Minnesota Pollution Control was there, gave a detailed presentation, so is XL. This is an ongoing thing to keep the public in the loop of their plans of what's going on, and it's a good meeting to have. They'll have another one here in another month, I believe, or 2 months, something like that. So that'll be ongoing. That's it.
Okay, great. Commissioner Hulse?
So I had a couple of constituent meetings over the last couple of weeks. Then we had Commissioner Delowski and I were both involved in the North Star draft presentation for policymakers. One thing I think we'll need to make sure that we do is put together a workshop once that report is published, because I think we need to make it clear where the county stands with respect to that project. I've got a couple of upcoming meetings. I got another constituent group meeting tonight, and then meeting with Congressman Emmer's office Wednesday.
Great. Commissioner Danielowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Attended the AMC Legislative Conference virtually, as all have indicated. I was in 2 committee meetings. The 7W Transportation, or the Transportation Committee, I should say, in regards to working on, there's a projected $20 to $30 billion shortfall over the next 20 years for our transportation funding. And as we all know, that these projects don't get any cheaper as time goes on. They usually only get more expensive. And that is with the consideration that MnDOT is in preservation mode only, which is what they've been in for a good number of past years. Also was in regards to what Commissioner Felber is talking about, also subcommittee that I'm on has to do with housing, affordable housing, the housing needs in general, and you hit the nail on the head very well, Greg, that there are issues in housing for affordability, issues with homelessness. So that was a good subcommittee meeting in trying to figure out how we can work towards addressing those needs. And had a February 27th, a Parks Committee meeting. And we were reviewing the Survey Monkey results for the phase 2 of our engagement that we're putting together our long-range Parks and Trail Plan. And there was 226 people that responded to that online survey. We did a review of the funding opportunities to look at coming up, worked on strategies for implementation, and our next meeting will be March 20th, and we're getting closer to developing that 20-year plan. Also attended my options board meeting that evening, and excited to say that they are going to be doing the coffee cart that Ember Coffee had, not Ember Coffee, Kinder Coffee, sorry, Ember's in Big Lake. And they will be bringing that back, and they are looking forward to hopefully being up and running by around May 1st. And there's also going to be a Disability Day at the Capitol is on March 28th, and they were happy to say that Senator Matthews will be visiting the Options Facility on March 31st as a guest for coffee and conversation. And February 28th, I attended the Big Lake Chamber meeting. March 1st, I was down for Transportation Day at the Capitol, and it's very interesting to hear them talk about the amount of miles that are just dedicated highway miles in the state, 11,678. And that doesn't include our county road system, our city roads, and our township roads. The state highway plan is out for public comment, and like I said before, they're estimating a shortfall. And then I was also We Are Water kickoff that Gary referred to. Just want to highlight, it was very, very interesting. I highly recommend that anybody go up to the Sherburne History Center. It will be going through April 24th. It is really it's really a good exhibit, and we need, water is important, so please take the time to check it out. And then as Commissioner Halls reported, we did do a North Star Partners corridor meeting on Friday, and I do agree with his comments that we do need to, when they publish their draft, have a workshop for that discussion.
That'd be
That's it.
great. A few additional items for me. I also attended and was part of the AMC Legislative Conference that quickly switched in like 48 hours from in-person to remote. It was fascinating to see the staff do it and do it fairly well. Met with many of our legislators, highlighting the Association of Minnesota Counties priorities and also our own here in Sherburne. Had a meeting up in Livonia Township with 169 and 4 homeowners that are being affected by that interchange when it goes through. Had a really good meeting. City was there, township, us, our engineer, our public works staff. Had my first AMC Board of Directors meeting. had the State Community Health Services Advisory Committee meeting, and we have on our workshop today, public health and a little bit about SHAC, so I'll let Nicole share that with us later. And last night, the Princeton Airport meeting, which they are making a few ordinance changes, and the public hearing for that, if anyone's interested, is March 13th. And if you need more information on that, Bruce has the copy that he could send to you, or reach out to the city of Princeton for that. That is it for me. Addition of number of constituent items and things like that. Few things just of note. I think you all got the Association of Minnesota Counties annual report. So if not, see me or Bruce. There was a letter about the Mighty Mississippi Cleanup Challenge that some of you may have gotten, that starts down in, they want it to happen all along the Mississippi, a cleanup challenge. And I know we already do a number of those things, but reaching out to make a more organized efforts, some of our neighbors and counties that also run along the Mississippi. Also, I think you all received a note from Senator Klobuchar thanking us for our visit. So just wanted to highlight those. And with that, we are running a little bit late, so I want to recognize that for staff and for the board, but we will be taking a little break before we recess our regular meeting. We'll be moving into break, and then we'll be moving into a closed session immediately following our break. So let's come back, if we can, in about 10 minutes. So at 10:21. See you back.